Well, reaction from one of Justin Trudeau's fellow political leaders today to news that the Prime Minister and his wife are separating.
This is an incredibly difficult time for anyone to have to go through a separation. It's a very difficult thing, and particularly to go through a separation in the public eye. And I just want to acknowledge how difficult that is for not only Mr. Trudeau and his wife, but also for his children. And I also want to acknowledge the impact it could have on his kids, and in their request for privacy, respect that is what they've been calling for, and respect that. And I've reached out just to express my concern about or just my sympathy for what's going on.
We have not heard from the Prime Minister directly beyond his Instagram statement posted yesterday. We are going to bring in the political panel now. Vandana Qatar is a political consultant and former advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau. James Moore is a senior advisor at Dentons and a former Conservative cabinet minister. Andrew Thompson is a former Saskatchewan cabinet minister, now chief of government relations at the University of Toronto. And Shachi Kurl is the president of the Angus Reid Institute. Shachi, we'll start with you. What's your assessment about how people have responded and reacted?
Well, I don't know. We've only learned about it yesterday. What I would say, based on what we know just from stats, from Statistics Canada stats, is that the divorce and separation rate in this country is hovering at about 38% at a time when formal marriage has plummeted over the last 40 years. So what that tells me is two things. First of all, there are millions of Canadian adults who have walked in these shoes and had the same experiences and feelings and run the spectrum of the feelings that Ms. Grégoire Trudeau and Mr. Trudeau may be feeling at this time. They know what it's like. Also, it's really not that big of a deal in terms of the fact that this happens to so many Canadian couples, and therefore, if they are reacting in any way, it's probably in probably two ways, one of two ways or both ways. One, that's too bad. Genuinely, it's too bad. Nobody ever likes to hear about a breakup. If you've been to a wedding this summer, as I have, and spent the good money on a really nice gift, you actually want the couple to go the distance. And second of all, it's something that happens to countless couples in this country. So from both those perspectives, I think that would be the general reaction. People have spent a lot of time poring over the what about the political implication? What about the political implication? I want to say a couple of things about that. First of all, we have solo politicians in this country who are doing just fine, who don't need to have their spouses with them. I think about Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta, who is married, but we don't see much of her husband. An Alberta political watcher referred to him today as a snuffleupagus. That's not hurting her brand. Naheed Nenshi, Jason Kenney, lots of people who just go about their business as politicians without needing the whole family bit around them. And frankly, that kind of thinking it's kind of old-fashioned. And you know, people are saying, well, you know, maybe this will help his approval numbers, or this will make him more sympathetic. What I would say is, you know, the vote intent numbers for the Liberal Party and for this Prime Minister and his approval numbers were, no pun intended, decoupled a long time ago. So even if it softens him in any way, I don't think it makes much of a difference vote-wise.
James, do you see a political component to this?
No. Look, there are two people in this relationship, and I'm not one of them, so it's frankly none of my business. What I will say, though, on the political side, in just a very short commentary, particularly to my friends in the broader small c conservative movement, not the Conservative Party, but the broader conservative movement, we've all known pain. We've all known disappointment and things in our lives. And those out there who are participating in the spreading of memes and jokes and garbage on social media, there's a special place in hell for you, and it has no place in public life. Everybody deserves better than that. The Prime Minister of this country, whether you vote for him or not, deserves better than that, and people need to cut that crap out.
Vandana, I do want to raise the issue, and we talked about it yesterday, and I want to bring it up again today, that it's hard to be a politician in this country, particularly in Ottawa. You are flying sometimes for more than a day to get to your job here. It's not always easy to go home on the weekends. The hours are very long. You're away sometimes from young kids. This is a reality for politicians in this country and around the world. Do you see ways that we can better support politicians writ large, not this specific instance, but politicians writ large?
I think the thing I would like people to walk away from with this is that politicians, like everyone else, are human. You have a right to disagree. You have a right to feel that they haven't done enough. But like everyone else, they feel the same things. They struggle the same way. They put their shoes on the same way. And I think from this, we should see them as human. And in a highly polarizing world, more so than not, I think we have to take a moment to just really reflect on the fact that these are people at the end of the day who are putting their life and putting, and sacrificing themselves for the sake of public service, which is honorable. And everyone comes to these jobs for the same reason. They want to come to these jobs because they want to make a difference for their province, their country, their municipality. And we all have different views on how that looks, but it's all for the right reasons. So I think we need to continue to just be kind. And I think just what the world's been seeing recently, that needs to end. I think that'll help.
Andrew, I want to wrap up this topic, but I will leave that last word to you and your thoughts on some of the discussions that we've heard over the past 24 hours since this announcement was made.
Sure. Well, I mean, living here in downtown Toronto as I do, I mean, this is quite different than what we saw when John Tory was going through his marital breakdown and the issues surrounding that, because of course there were many salacious details about what had prompted that. And I think what's being seen here is that this is being seen with the Prime Minister as being a private matter between two individuals and affecting the family primarily. And as long as it stays that way, I expect it'll have no political impact. But politicians do deploy their spouses as shields. We see them being used in a way to try and take some of the rough edges off. The imagery of a strong, small nuclear family still is a powerful one in Canadian politics. And for any of us that don't fit into that model, it's a very hard one to try to combat or to try to figure out how to work into that. There is just, Canadian electorate is hardwired to recognize that. As a politician becomes more established, as their brand is already there, as people already have opinions about them, I think that importance of the imagery becomes less and people view it more around the policies. But I don't think we should be naive and pretend that somehow that these issues are never brought to play politically. And we see that right now with the Conservative leader who's got his wife out on stages many times now talking about issues to try and make him look more human. We've certainly seen, the great celebration that's been put around the Singh family as they're expanding and looking now at a second child. I mean, these are milestones that Canadians like to celebrate. And so we like to have a little bit of a peek into it, but there's no way we should become obsessed with it. And certainly no way that we should weaponize it unless there's a direct political linkage or a public interest, as I think from time to time we see in the Me Too movement, or politicians sleeping with their staff, or these kind of issues that are just clearly no-go zones.
All right, thanks very much to the Power Panel, Vandana Qatar, James Moore, Andrew Thompson, and Shachi Kurl.